So, you want to bag your Toyota Innova. Hello and welcome. Finally, we're here. After months and months of working on this car, we are finally here. So you want to bag your Innova. But fortunately, this is a special Innova. This is not the same with other Innovas na gagawin natin for sure. This is an Innova with a Previa rear under chassis conversion. Bakit? Tignan nyo naman yung likod. Piking-piki yung likod. That is not possible with a stock suspension ng Innova. And yes, we will be making another video for the Innova for the stock suspension, but this one is a modified suspension, okay? Take that with a grain of salt. So, the front suspension of this car is stock. The rear suspension is a Previa suspension. We will get to that in a bit, but for now, I just want to thank many people muna. First of all, I want to thank the owner for trusting fitment. This is his second car. Pangalawang kotse na to. Full package pa to. Height sensors, pressure sensors, all of that good shit. Tapos, pinakonvert pa niya yung rear suspension sa amin. He really want this car done. Konting backstory ng kotseng ito. This car was not done by us first. This was done by another builder before, and they did it bad. The way they did the rear chassis suspension conversion was really bad before. Okay? I'm suffocating, sorry. Whew. So, before they used a RAV4 suspension that had a mismatched gear ratio for the differential. It couldn't handle the engine's torque. It couldn't send the car forwards properly. The conversion was terrible. They had to cut a big chunk of the frame, and we had to clean it up. So the decision was made to just use a Previa. Why Previa ang ginamit? What's with Previa? Or what's with that suspension? The owner just wants an independent rear suspension sa likod. Because Innovas are on stock form, they cannot camber on the rear because they have a solid live axle on the rear. Nakapatong yung axle sa suspension. Isang buong differential and axle, baka lang siyang isang piraso. So, yun yung backstory ng kotseng ito. And fast forward, after 6 months of hard work, looking for parts, the car is finally here. If you're an avid viewer, you'd seen this car in the background for a long time. It's finally done. And what I can say is, napakaganda ng ride nito sa likod. The independent rear suspension really changed this car's ride feel. We will discuss that later on, okay? So, for now, I want you to take this time to subscribe to the channel, like and share and comment down below. What are your thoughts about this car? And it's going to get technical and educational as we dive in or delve in this fancy Innova with our Previa rear under chassis, okay? Let's go to the under chassis section. Hello and welcome sa unahan ng Toyota Innova. The most awaited bagged Innova halos sa aking channel. Welcome! So first things first, let's do a shout out to the Project Mu brake kit sa front. We have a Mr. Offset here, 25mm, ginawa naming 19. So, niresurface namin. That being said, we are greeted with a double wishbone suspension sa unahan. That means, anong ibig sabihin nun? Hindi umiikot yung shocks, hindi pumipihit yung shocks pag kumakabig ang manibela. In English, the shocks are not pivoting on the axis when you turn the steering wheel. Okay, let's actually do that right now. Pakita namin sa inyo. So, ikot natin yung manibela. Turn the other way around. So as you can see, even though the wheels are turning, the steering wheel is being rotated, hindi kumakabig yung shocks like a McPherson strut. McPherson struts, they tend to go along or pivot along pag kinakabig yung manibela or when you're rotating the steering wheel. So that's the benefit of a wishbone suspension. So that's good for air suspension kasi yung ating mga hose lines hindi na kailangan umikot. So that being said, yun ang pinaka first thing that we did here. This is stock, wala kaming binago dito. Unlike the rear, which we'll get into later. So ano bang mga notable na kailangan i-discuss sa unahan? So being a wishbone suspension and SUV type siya na suspension, we have a decent amount of space here. Pinalo nyo pa ba to? Hindi na, no? So, Sa mga Fortuner kasi itong cowling na to, this cowling o yung cover na ito, pinapalo pa yan sa mga Fortuner, FJ Cruiser. Pero for the Innova, this is actually very spacious na. This is very similar sa Navara, no? So, Navara ang kanyang kamuka. Hindi mo na siya kailangan paluin and wala ka nang kailangan gawin pa para i-airsus siya. Yung upper control arm niya na wishbone na ito, nasa ilalim siya ng bag, giving us a lot of space. And yung cowling niya, hindi siya masyadong masikip. Well, actually, sobrang luwag niya. Very easy to do. Wala kang masyadong kailangan gawin sa unahan ng Innova. Just have to remember na wishbone type suspension siya, which makes it a lot easier. Okay? So, let's move on to the back of the suspension ng kotseng ito, which is yung mas mahirap. Kasi ito, pinalta ng Previa. Okay? Let's go there. Alright. Welcome naman sa likod ng ating Innova suspensions. This is actually a Previa Lucida or Estima conversion. Kasi if you would see, we are actually sporting a very peculiar rear setup conversion. Bakit? As you can see sa side na ito, meron tayong control arm na dito. Okay? Dati wala yan. Kasi ang Innova dati ay it's sitting on the axle. Solid beam axle siya. Hindi siya nag-auto-camber. Dependent suspension sa likod. So ngayon, meron tayong adjustable control arm na dito. So basically, what it is now is a independent rear suspension setup from the Previa. Why did the client choose to convert the Innova? It's because ang Innova natin, kasi mas matagtag ang likod niyan. Kasi nga, solid beam axle siya, nakaupo yung suspension sa axle. Hindi siya nagka-camber, and mas matagtag siya. When you change it to an independent rear suspension, that translates into a better ride. Okay? Mas malambot yung ride niya. Paano yun? Nagkasya. Yes, we had to do a lot of conversion. Well, our boys had to do a lot of conversion. Kung mapapansin mo tong mga panel na to, ewan ko lang kung kita nyo, I'm gonna bump up the exposure later on. Pero, kinonvert namin yung buong pangilalim ng Innova, ginawa namin Previa. There's a lot to talk about how to do that. We're not going to go into that kasi this is not that video. Okay? Pero, one thing to note is that ang Previa ay divorce suspension. Okay? Yun ang shocks niya. Yun naman yung spring niya. Air spring na siya ngayon. So, divorced setup siya. What does that tell us? Divorce setup means kailangan mong isentro to na hindi siya umiwas sa axle na yon. Pero for the Previa setup and Previa/Innova setup, maluwag siya. Okay? We're probably going to do another video on how to bag an Innova with the stock under chassis. This is a different under chassis, so this will not apply to all Innovas. So as you can see, ito yung mga welding nila. Dati butas to. Kasi nga, iba ang gumawa dati. Nilagay nila dito RAV4, which is sobrang sama. So, makikita mo yung mga weld points. If you know your suspensions, then you will see what we did here. Okay? You will see what we actually, our boys did to convert this suspension. There's a lot to talk about on this suspension, pero we're not going to discuss that even further. This is sporting a height sensors, pero I'm not gonna show it to you. It's way back there. It's very difficult to see. Bibigyan ko kayo ng hapyaw ng itsura dun sa side na yon. Pero for now, yes, divorce suspension siya. Very quirky car. This is one of the most unique cars that we did because of how the setup is made. Okay? Innova with a Previa under chassis. Okay? We have spacers here, drum brakes here. So as you can see, as much as possible, they did a conversion na malinis. And I could say that for myself na malinis naman siya. The owner will be here to judge it for himself. Pero for now, divorce siya ngayon. This is very good. Ang ganda ng ride nito. I personally driven this. And this totally changed the Innova's character. It's a bit costly to do this. Pero, if you can, it's worth it. Nag-auto camber na rin siya. Makikita nyo mamaya. So, pinakita ko lang sa inyo ngayon yung hapyaw ng rear suspension natin to show you and prove to you that this is in fact not anymore the stock Innova suspension. Okay? So you can see this came from a Lucida, Estima, or Previa. Previa is the minivan ng Toyota. Those are the height sensors right there. Okay? We have height sensors there, height sensors there, control arm, independent rear suspension na siya. Translates to a very good ride. Okay? Yung differential naman ng Previa is medyo match sa Innova. So, it has proper torque naman kahit papaano. Not that fast, pero proper torque kahit papaano. This is quite the conversion, and it's really difficult. It took us 6 months to haul the parts and convert it. Well, converting it will be a month, pero hauling the parts, man, oh my God. Yung client na naghanap para sa amin, it took them a total of 6 months to find this under chassis. And it's really a really interesting conversion, pero if you can do it, get it. Napaka highly recommended ko nito. Ang ganda ng ride ng Innovang to, sobra. Okay? Let's move on to the top side para makita nyo yung system. Alright. Hello and welcome sa likod ng Innova, where you see a very significant sound system here. It is done by another shop, pero I forgot their name. So they made provisions kasi dati nung ginawa na ito, may previous existing setup ito ng air suspension. That's why you see here on the left side and right side, meron ng lalagyan ng pump dito. So that being said, previously, kasi nga galing sa ibang builder to, may mga provisions na for the air suspension. Ginamit lang ulit namin. That's what I want to tell you. It is sporting the height sensor and pressure sensor package ng fitment ngayon. If we look closely, our fitment engineering management system is right there. It is mated to a valve VU4 block, 3-gallon aluminum seamless tank. And yeah, what can I say sa likod na ito? This is not the usual layout ng Innova. Because, specifically for this Innova, inoccupy nila yung third row seats at ginawa na nilang sound system. I wouldn't say this is a standard way to do it. Kasi if ito ay stock Innova, I would probably put the system underneath sa spare tire. But for this time, since it's a show car, it is a show car, we had to do this for them. Okay, something to note, this sound setup previously was wrapped in gray leather. Nasa sobrang tagal dun sa previous builder, pumangit na. So what we did for the client is we re-wrapped the wood with speaker carpet. So that made everything clean kasi black na siya lahat. It blends well with the air suspension setup. But nonetheless, this is not a standard setup that we should be talking much about. But yeah, it hides most of the wirings and it actually is presentable if I say so myself. So it is sporting some focal speakers. So it is sporting some focal amplifiers. I am not aware with the brand of the speakers. But overall, yes, this will be invasive at space consuming. But that is the owner's decision, not ours to make. That is going to be it for the rear side of the system. That is going to be it for the rear layout ng Innovang ito. Quite quirky, if I say so myself. Okay, let's move on to the outro and final thoughts about this bag Innova. Welcome back. We are now on the end of the video. This is the final thoughts about this car. We are on the outro. Okay, first things first, start muna natin yung kotse. I want to raise up the car. Sorry, it will be a little bit noisy. Okay, it is actually, yes, modified yung engine bay niya. Sa mga mahilig sa Thailand, sa mahilig sa mga Thailand builds, ito siya. So I hope the audio is not too loud. The engine is quite loud, okay? We're going to raise up the car. Let's see how far this thing can travel. Let's connect to the car and raise the front. Taas. Let's raise the rear. Ooh, taas din. So while that charge up, let's talk about it. How was the front? You saw how easy it was, and you saw the rear. Okay? As I've said in the intro, gusto ng client yung auto camber sa likod, and that actually translates to a better ride sa likod as well. So there's a lot of things going on this car. This is in fact a heavily modified Innova. Probably one of the best pag natapos. Disclaimer, hindi pa po ito tapos totally. Tapos na lang siya sa air suspension. The paint needs some work. The sound system needs some testing. Everything else needs to be touched up, tied up. Matatapos na nito, malapit na. But ang concern ng client is hindi ko to matatapos kung hindi safe yung under chassis ko. And yun yung ginawa natin. So I'm still racing up the car. It's quite noisy. We're gonna turn off the car later. Mataas yung travel niya, as you can see. Holy shit, di ba? More than my kamao. Okay, and we're gonna drop the car. Okay, let's drop the car. So as you can see, nagkakamber yung unahan, nagkakamber din yung likod. And bang! Di ba? Ito yung ride height niya. P1, P2, P3, air out. Woo. Alright, I'm very happy. As you can see, I'm very energetic on this video. Kasi it's been a long time talaga. It's been a long time coming. So I have to shut down the car kasi it's so noisy. Pero, that being said, yes. It's been a long time coming. This car has been with us for a long time. Ito yung mga project na hindi ko sure kaya kong tapusin, pero tinanggap ko kasi I don't want the owner stressed out anymore. He has gone through a lot of shit. Okay? 3 years tong nakastock dun sa dating gumawa. And I'm like, holy damn shit. Kami nga 6 months natapos namin. I don't know what happened. Labas na kami dun. But for now, it is done. The air suspension is done. Okay, I can only tell you how good this rides or how good the ride is. But I cannot show to you. But you have to take my word for it. Magandang ride nito. Okay, paano ang wheel spec nito, Kyle? I don't think we should discuss that. Kasi iba yung likod eh. Other Innovas won't be able to copy this setup kung hindi nila papalitan yung likod. So there's no point on changing the rear side of the suspension. Or there's no point on discussing the wheel spec of this car. So, how was it? How was the car's conversion? How does it look finally? We are changing the wheels pa. The paint will be refurbished pa. Aayusin pa, papakintabin pa to. Madami pa tong gagawin. Madami pa tayong kailangan gawin sa kotseng ito. But for now, the client will get it kasi madami pa siyang papaayos. But thankfully, the under chassis is done. Makakatakbo na siya. Okay? There's a lot of backstory to this car and I hope, and I'm glad to be part of this. Okay? For now, we'll be done. But it will be back on our hands again. We'll do another video on this probably pag tapos na siya. Thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully that was informative for you. Did you learn something for this video? If you did, hit that like button, subscribe. Hit the bell icon for the notification. We are doing a lot of cars and we are sharing the knowledge for you. So you want to bag your Toyota Innova. This is how. Stay tuned for the next video ng Innova. Stock suspension ang gagawin natin. But for now, enjoy this quirky little Innova that made it possible to do this. That's going to be it for now. I'm Kyle from Fitment Engineering and you're watching Fitment TV. So you want to bag your car. We are the guys to call for that. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.